Good morning, everyone. It is Saturday, September the 19th, 2020. It is currently 11:12 a.m. Central Time, and we have something very serious to talk about, all right? And I'm going to try my best to look at this from different perspectives. I'm probably going to offend everyone. I'm probably going to make everyone mad, but it is an important subject because for, the next 30 minutes, 45 minutes, an hour, I don't know how long, we're going to be talking about free speech. And obviously, free speech is of utmost importance to me because guess what I'm doing? I'm speaking. And guess what's going to happen? As soon as I'm done, not only am I speaking live on the air right now, as soon as I'm done speaking, then this episode will be sent to podcast platforms all over the internet. Apple, Google, Spotify, it will be everywhere, okay? YouTube, it's going to be everywhere as soon as I'm done speaking. So I love the ability to be able to turn on this microphone and speak live so that people can listen to me in real time. I love the fact that as soon as I'm done speaking, then what I have said is sent all over the internet. I like that freedom, and guess what? I want everyone else to have the exact same freedom. I want the freedom to speak, and I want everyone else to have the right to speak. And it doesn't matter if I agree with them or not. I don't care if I believe they're crazy. I don't care if I believe that I don't care. Even from a theological perspective, I don't care if they're absolute false teachers, absolute apostasy. I don't care. I want them to have the freedom to speak. I don't care their perspective. I don't care. And this is a very important principle, and you're going to hear me repeat this over. The freedom I deny others is a freedom I am ultimately denying myself. If I take away someone else's freedom, ultimately, whatever rule, whatever regulation, whatever reason I come up with to take someone else's freedom, that same rule will ultimately be turned and used against me to take away my freedom. I love one of the greatest things about America is the freedoms that we have. And I'm going to defend your freedom, and hopefully you will defend my freedom. When atheists were putting up billboards and Christians were, this happened in Texas and some other states, atheists were putting up billboards that basically called into question the existence of God, that it was a fairy tale, that Jesus was a fairy tale, et cetera, et cetera. There were many Christians that were upset, and they wanted those billboards removed. They wanted those billboards removed from the city bus. And I was like, why would you deny them their right? Why would you deny them their freedom to put up those billboards? And so I turned on the microphone. This happened years ago. And I told atheists, look, if you want to put a billboard right next to my church saying that God doesn't exist, be my guest. I don't care. It doesn't offend me. It doesn't bother me. You have the right to believe or not to believe whatever you want, and I defend your right to put that message out there. Now, when I recorded that episode, it was published on Sermon Audio. The backlash against me was Christians went absolutely crazy on me. I got actually a phone call from an atheist organization who could not believe that, and I think it was the atheist organization putting up the billboards, they could not believe that a pastor was really defending them. I'm like, why would I not defend you? You want to put up a billboard saying there isn't a God? Great. And if a Christian organization wants to put up a billboard saying there is a God, I want them to have the same freedom. If a Muslim wants to put up a billboard saying Allah is the only God, I want them to have, if a Satanist wants to put up a billboard saying worship Satan, I want them to have that freedom to do so. I don't understand why that's controversial. Freedom. I want it. If I want it, then other people should have it as well. I've always hated this mentality of, we don't like that. Censor it, remove it, silence it, ban it, boycott it. I hate that mentality. If you don't like it, don't watch it. Move on with your life. But if you don't want them to have the freedom to produce something, then ultimately that freedom will be taken away from you. It's very simple. To me, it's very simple. It's a very straightforward perspective. But for some reason, it's controversial whenever you say that. So that's my perspective. I want to make this very clear. That is my perspective. I want the freedom to speak, and I want other people to have the freedom to speak. That my perspective is very clear. The freedoms I deny others are freedoms that will ultimately be taken away from myself, right? I hated it in the 1980s when Christians were burning records. I'm like, why would you burn records? Like, what? That is crazy. And you know, these churches, we get together and we're going to burn rock and roll albums. And I'm like, what? So what are you going to accomplish by burning rock and roll albums? Like, what do you hope to accomplish by doing that? Like, what does that mean? Like, and then they wanted, an album would come out and they wanted it censored, or they wanted it banned, or they wanted it boycotted, or a movie would come out and they wanted it banned, they wanted it boycotted, or a book would come out, they wanted it banned or boycotted, or they wanted to burn copies of it. And it used to be, it was Christians who were very much this, we talk about the cancel culture in 2020. There were Christians who really, they kind of sparked the cancel culture. Let's silence it. Let's boycott it. Let's get a petition to stop it. And it's like, why? Let them do what they want, and then we can do what we want. They want to make a movie mocking Christianity. You make a movie promoting Christianity. They want to make an album promoting who knows what, saying horrible things. Go make an album saying something positive, good, and speaking against those things. That's the way it should work. But we are entering into a very weird time where it's not necessarily the Christians now. Well, there may be still some Christians are part of cancel culture. I think at different times they are. But it's almost this kind of mentality of cancel, silence, ban, remove, block, shadow ban, all the different terminology. It's being utilized by people all over the ideological spectrum, especially those who have power. What do I mean by that? Facebook, YouTube, Google, right? I know Google owns YouTube, but you get the idea. I'm just speaking them as the things that we use. A Google search bar, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, big tech. Now there's lots of concern that big tech is trying to ban, trying to silence Christians and conservatives. Now, it's interesting because there was a long time that was Christians trying to silence and ban people, but now we're upset when that they try to silence and ban us. So here's the question. Have we reached a turning point that we're getting very close to seeing the end of free speech as we once knew it? It still may exist, but it's going to look differently. And so should we be concerned, or is that hyperbole, an exaggeration, and people have kind of a persecution complex where they see any attack upon them as they're being persecuted, and it really benefits them to scream that they're being persecuted because it rallies everyone around them. What is really the truth? What is going on with free speech? Well, I've got a number of stories that I'm going to try to put together here. This may be a conversation we need to have moving forward, but you can throw out your thoughts here, right? So I've seen trying to silence people and boycott people. I've seen it done by conservatives and Christians. I've seen it done by liberals. I just think that there's a mentality sometimes, if I don't like it, then nobody else should be able to watch it, hear it, see it, or look at it. And we've seen a lot of controversy lately. Let's just give some different of the movie. The movie Cuties on Netflix, right? I'll make sure I've got the right name of the movie, because if I don't have the right name, then I'll have to come back and correct this. So give me a second. Now, lots of controversy about this movie. Is it Cuties? I believe it's Cuties. Give me just one second. Yeah, Cuties. Cuties. Cuties movie. I'm getting all kinds of search options. Yeah. All right. Cuties. It's a name of a movie that's currently available on Netflix. And a lot of people are not happy about the movie. They believe the movie sexualizes children. The directors and people have on saying, no, that's not what we're trying to do. We're trying to show the danger of sexualization of children. Some people don't like the content. All kinds of controversy. Some people say Cuties is, will be watched by pedophiles all over the world. And everyone has an opinion. And this is very important as I move forward. I'm going to be talking about a lot of different things. Okay, I'm going to be talking about a lot of different things. I may mention cuties. I may mention Joe Rogan in his podcast. I may mention J.K. Rowling and the author of Harry Potter. I may mention things about COVID-19. I'm not here to have a debate about what you think about cuties or what you think about Harry Potter or what you think about COVID-19. I'm talking about free speech. All right. So I'm going to mention different things, and what people are going to do, they're going to gravitate to that and miss the overarching point. Free speech, all right? That is what I want us to really focus on. So just stay with me here, okay? You've got, I don't want anyone to miss the point because they hear one thing. Oh, he's talking about COVID. Yeah, it's all a hoax. That's not the debate here, all right? The debate here is about free speech. So let's consider. So on the conservative side, many on the religious side, cuties is like, that's it. This movie needs to be removed from Netflix. Netflix, remove the movie. All right. So you're trying to deny the freedom of Netflix to put whatever movies they want. And you're trying to deny the director to be able to make the movies they want. You're trying to remove their ability to make movies by not allowing them to be on one of the biggest streaming services for movies in the world. Now, I want to make sure we understand this. So you've got conservatives and Christians saying, cuties, that's it. Cancel Netflix, boycott it, remove the movie. But can you imagine if a bunch of people got together and said, remove any Christian movie that was added to Netflix? Now, cuties may be offensive. Cuties may be a movie that you don't want to watch, you don't want your family to watch, and you are absolutely horrified by its content. You don't have to watch it. You don't have to. I'm assuming it has a TV mature rating. You can set up a filter so that you can't watch anything that's TV mature on Netflix. Right? So just move on with your life. No. It's got to be controversy. We got to protest. We got to get a petition going. We got to get a hashtag going. We got to boycott. We got to silence it. Now that's been more on the conservative religious side. Let's get rid of cuties. But now on the other side, liberals now, they want to silence, get rid, cancel J.K. Rowling, the author of the Harry Potter series. Now, there was a time it was Christians burning Harry Potter books. But the times have changed. The times are a-changing, right? Okay, we have a change in the air, and now it's liberals who are burning Harry Potter books because J.K. Rowling has said things about transgenderism, and has said things about that they don't like. And so now they're mad. In fact, I have the story right here. I posted it this morning. For different people to look at, friends from different places. J.K. Rowling book burning videos are spreading like wildfire across TikTok. All right. Now and you can read everything about it, but I mean, people want to burn her books. Don't buy her books. They want to silence her. They want to do everything they can, almost basically to destroy her career. Why? Because J.K. Rowling has given perspectives and opinions in regards to transgenderism and transgender that people on the liberal side, they don't like. And because they don't like it, cancel her, shut her down, silence her, end her career. The end of her. Almost, there are those who've even made death threats against her because they don't like her ideology. They want to silence and kill her. Now, wait. So the conservatives are upset about cuties. We want to get rid of it, get rid of Netflix, cancel Netflix until Netflix goes out of business. All right. So you only want a streaming service that shows movies that you approve of. Who cares? So who cares? And so you get to determine what you want to silence anything that you don't like. Why? Why even worry? Just don't watch it. Look, if you want the freedom to speak against it, guess what? Get a YouTube channel, get a podcast, turn on a mic, review the movie Cuties, and give us the 30 reasons why the movie is an abomination against God, against decency, against morality, why it's basically porn for a pedophile. Go at it. Just tear it into shreds. But defend the right to make it and have it, unless it obviously violates a rule like child pornography, which would be obviously illegal, okay, and should be because you're harming a child in the making of it. All right, obviously. Okay, but I'm saying as much freedom as possible you want to defend. Why? Because you want the freedom to make a movie condemning certain things. Like, I don't get it, but those are two very opposite sides, right? The cuties outrage and the J.K. Rowling outrage. Oh, wait, we've got more. Now we have the Joe Rogan outrage. Now, if you don't know who Joe Rogan is, well, then obviously you haven't been on planet Earth. I don't know where you've been, but welcome to Earth. Yes, you may want to turn around and leave because obviously the world seems to be falling apart right now, so you may want to go find a different planet, and maybe you'll find a planet with more intelligent life than you're going to find here. But right now, we have our own problems. Now, if you don't know who Joe Rogan is, the most popular podcast in the world, all right? He's number one everywhere, Joe Rogan. His podcast was put on YouTube, bazillions of views for every episode, but ultimately he made a deal with Spotify. All right, the music streaming service really got into the podcast business, and he made a multi-million-dollar deal to be on Spotify. All right, yeah, great. So Joe Rogan, already very well known. All right. And we can talk all about Joe Rogan's history, but he's got this podcast. Everyone loves listening to him. He's a great communicator. He's very good at interviewing. He interviews sometimes controversial people. Sometimes he makes controversial comments. Sometimes he does so in a humorous way. And we know jokes and humor can be very controversial, and that's not allowed in 2020. Well, guess what? Now Spotify is having some controversy because of Joe Rogan. Here's the story. Spotify CEO defends keeping transphobic Joe Rogan episodes. Now, there you have it. He has said something, and now he's branded, even in the headline, as being transphobic. Transphobic. So if you disagree with the transgender perspective, okay, then you're transphobic. And again, even the headline is labeling him as something bad, transphobic as bad, or maybe just a different opinion about the whole idea of transgenderism and all the different, and can a person change their gender just by based what they're identifying as? Oh, we could get into a whole discussion there. Again, the goal here is not to talk about that. The goal is just free speech. But here's what's happening. All right. The fact that we aren't changing our position doesn't mean we aren't listening, he said. It just means we made a different judgment call. That's the Spotify CEO. Here's the story. When the Joe Rogan Experience podcast hit Spotify at the beginning of this month, it was notably missing several episodes with controversial guests like Alex Jones, et cetera, right? So when he came over, some episodes, they were just gone. They're not going to be there. Now, please note, why? Well, because they're controversial. So did Joe Rogan remove them, or did Spotify remove them? Now, here we come. Now, here we come to free speech, right? Wait a minute. So you want Joe Rogan, you're going to pay millions of dollars for him, but you're not going to allow some of his previous episodes that had bazillions of views to be on Spotify. Now, if Joe Rogan agreed to that and the signing of the contract, well, then don't blame Spotify, blame Joe Rogan. That would be on him, right? If he agreed to that, it's his podcast. If he's willing, for a certain amount of money to delete some episodes, then that's okay. I mean, if I had a secular podcast and they were going to give me $30 million, there's probably a good idea that I'd be like, yeah, maybe I can delete that episode, okay? Or maybe that wasn't what he agreed upon and maybe it just happened. But the bottom line is that these episodes were missing. Several episodes featuring, and again, according to this news article, transphobic comments from Rogan and his guests have been left up on the streaming service. And as Vice reports, Spotify CEO Daniel Ek recently defended, I hope I'm saying his last name right, E-K, it's spelled E-K, recently defended the decision to keep those episodes in an all-hands meeting at the company. In the case of Joe Rogan, a total of 10 meetings have been held with various groups and individuals to hear their respective concerns. So there's people who work at Spotify who are like, no. These episodes need to be taken down. This is crazy. Some have gone so far. Are you ready for this? And some of the employees at Spotify want Rogan removed because of things he said in the past. They want him gone. They want him removed. Hey, it doesn't matter that you paid $30 million for him. Get rid of Rogan. Now, this is insane to me because he supposedly made transphobic comments. Let's go through the music that's on Spotify. Let's go through some of the lyrics, but those are okay. That's okay. You can have rap referring to women as, bees, and you get the idea. It can be overly explicit, sexualized women. It can be derogatory. It can be. We could go through lyric after lyric, and you'd be like, "Whoa, that's on Spotify." Just go through even some songs that don't seem controversial. Go listen to some of the lyrics, and you're kind of like, I don't know about that. In fact, I'm going to do a search really quick just to show you, okay? So, hey, Rogan's got to go, right? We want Rogan gone. All right, let me look at this real quick. Just give me a second. I didn't think about this. It just hit me right now. All right, give me a second here. All right, yeah. Okay. Now I've got to make sure. I got to make sure it's on Spotify. I got to make sure it's on Spotify. There's no way it's not on Spotify, but I just got to check. Give me 1 second. I'm going to search for it. I got it. Oh, yep, there it is. Okay, so it's there. And I don't know what year it was. What year was it? I don't remember. I would have to look up the year, but a very, very long time ago, a very, very popular band by the name of the Rolling Stones released a song called Brown Sugar. What could Brown Sugar be about? Did the Rolling Stones release a song about how much they like brown sugar? Well, let's just listen to the lyrics. Gold Coast slave, ship bound for cotton fields. What? Wait. Gold Coast slave, ship bound for cotton fields. Sold in the market down in New Orleans. Scarred old slaver knows he's doing all right. Hear him whip the woman just around midnight. Brown sugar, how come you taste so good? Brown sugar, just like a young girl should. Drums beating cold, English blood runs hot. Lady of the house wondering when it's gonna stop. Houseboy knows that he's doing all right. You should have heard him just around midnight. Yeah, it's about a slave. There's sexual situation going on. I'm not going to sit there and interpret all the lyrics, but hey, that's on Spotify. That's okay. No, wait a minute. In 2020, where's the outrage of the Rolling Stones song Brown Sugar? Where's it? But no. That's okay. So, but Joe Rogan, he's got to go. And they've had 10 meetings, right? So again, sometimes it's very selective. We've got to get rid of this. We want to ban this. Whatever the outrage is at the moment. And the outrage is always silence, remove, cancel. So we got those who want cuties gone. We want cuties, got to get rid of cuties. Got to get rid of it. Cancel Netflix. We got to remove it. All right. We've got those who want J.K. Rowling canceled, and they want to burn Harry Potter books, not because of witchcraft, what evangelicals were running around. It's a boy wizard. We got to get rid of it. It's got magic in it. Silence it. It's the evil. Satan will enter your room. Okay, your kid will want to become a wizard and fly around on a broom playing a sports game. Okay, right. So you had that side, right? Then now you've got, hey, Joe Rogan, his podcast. It's got to go. I know you paid millions of dollars, but us, the employees of Spotify, we want him removed. And the CEO is like, no, don't think that's going to happen. Okay, but we're listening to you. So he's trying to keep peace within there. But at the meantime, on Spotify, I could go from controversial song to controversial song, the lyrics to make you go, wait a minute, what? Wait, what's going on there? I think if you listen to the first ZZ Top album, there's a song there. Woo! It's like, wait, how old is this girl? Wait, what's going on here? There's some major problem. I think it's the first ZZ Top album. I'd have to go look it up. It's been a while. But the point is, I could go from song to song to song, old, new, in the middle. I mean, wherever. And we would find stuff going, wait, so you're okay with that? But Joe Rogan's got to be taken down. He's got to be, because he made some transphobic remarks. You see how this works? So it's this mentality that's showing up. Now, here's what I want to do. I'm going to play for you a clip from the Tucker Carlson program that airs on Fox News. And he's going to be talking, because here's what happened. Tucker Carlson did an interview with an individual who's claiming that the COVID-19, the whole coronavirus COVID-19 did not originate in nature, but it originated probably in a lab. It was created in a lab, or at least that's part of her discussion. You can go, if you can find the video, it's still out there. You can watch it. After that aired, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, they did different things. They put like a warning that you had to look at a warning before you could watch it. I think some may have even removed it. The woman who did the interview, her Twitter account was suspended completely. She escaped from China. She's now living in the United States and hiding, but she can't be on Twitter because Twitter removed it. Well, why would Twitter remove? Like, what? Wait, what? They got rid of her account. Now, she is a scientist. She was one of the first individuals to study the virus back in, I think, December. So she's not just like some hack who has a microphone like me, just some nobody speaking out. She's a trained scientist who studied the virus. Now, whether you agree with her, disagree with, whether you believe it's a conspiracy theory or not a conspiracy theory, should she not allowed to be, should it not be allowed that someone can interview her and post that interview and then people can listen to it and make up their own mind? But no. It's got to be flagged now by the so-called fact checkers. Now, wait a minute. Fact checkers who've never studied the virus can now determine that this information is misleading or false. But wait a minute. She actually studied the virus. Now, I don't know if she's telling the truth. I don't know what. I don't know. I haven't studied the virus. So I have to listen. I want to listen to her perspective while I listen to all the other perspectives. Try to figure out where did the virus originate? Those are all good questions. But no. So we're going to silence her. We're going to remove her Twitter account. This video that, this interview from Tucker Carlson, one of the most watched news programs in prime time. We're either going to make it hard to find. We're going to make you have to, go to fact checking sites to look at it. And Tucker Carlson is going to give you a number of examples of individuals who've spoken out in regards to COVID that their videos have been removed, they've been banned, they've been blocked, and just gone. Now, here's the thing. Again, I'm not here to get into the COVID-19 conspiracies. I'm not here to argue that or debate that. The issue is about free speech. All right? How much freedom? So I want to make sure we see this. Conservatives have done it. Liberals have done it. Big tech has done it. There is just this, we've got to stop and go, wait a minute, the freedom I'm denying you is the freedom I'm denying myself. So let's listen to this. And Tucker Carlson is going to mention a lot of things. So I'm going to play this. I'm not going to interrupt it too much. I may interrupt here or there. But what I want to do is we're going to come back and I'm going to offer kind of a counter perspective here that may tick a lot of people off. All right. So there's so much I wanted to get to, but let's just jump in and hear this. Right, here we go. The audio here is not great. Trying to find the actual video. I can't find the actual video. I had to find like a copy of a copy of a copy to be able to get this information across. Maybe I was missing it, but sometimes when these videos are being kind of obviously not allowed to be shared, there's problems. I think this one is allowed to be shared. I'm just having a hard time finding it, but this is the best copy I could come up with. Here we go.
Good evening and welcome to Tucker Carlson Tonight. On February 6th of this year, a group of researchers from the South China University of Technology uploaded a paper on the origins of the coronavirus. Their paper found that, contrary to popular accounts, the virus likely did not originate from an exotic animal in a so-called wet market. Instead, the researchers concluded, quote, the killer coronavirus probably originated from a laboratory in Wuhan. Now, to restate, the researchers who concluded this were Chinese scientists who worked for a Chinese university. And for that reason, understandably, they were concerned about the health implications for their own country of what they found. Their paper ended this way, quote, safety levels may need to be reinforced in high-risk biohazardous laboratories. Regulations may need to be taken to relocate these laboratories away from city centers and other densely populated places, end quote. As it happens, February 6th, which is the day that paper went online, was also the date of the first coronavirus death in this country. So the American media had every reason to pay attention to what the Chinese scientists had found. But they didn't. For nearly 2 months, the Chinese paper was all but ignored by news outlets in this country. On March 31st, this show broadcast its contents. By then, more than 3,700 Americans had died from the coronavirus. Tens of thousands were then hospitalized. So we imagined there would be a serious national effort to find out where this virus came from, to find out how the pandemic started. But we were wrong about that. There wasn't. There was silence. The people in charge of our public health infrastructure simply ignored credible evidence that contradicted the Chinese government's version of events. That was 5.5 months ago. During those 5.5 months, our society has been completely upended by the coronavirus. Nearly 200,000 Americans have died from it. Now more than ever, we believe it is worth knowing where this disease came from. That ought to be the first question. So in search of an answer, last night on this show, we spoke to a Chinese virologist called Dr. Li-Men Yang. Yang was one of the first scientists on Earth to study the Wuhan outbreak back in December of last year. That was before the rest of the world knew it existed. What she found during her research put her on a collision course with the Chinese government. In April, she fled her country in fear for her life. Now she lives in the United States in hiding. Here's some of what she told us last night on the show.
From my first report, I can present the solid scientific evidence to our audience that this virus, COVID-19 SARS-CoV-2 virus, actually is not from nature. I work with the top coronavirologists in the world. So together with my experience, I can tell you, this is created in the lab. This is from that template owned by China military. And also it is spread to the world to make such damage.
To make such damage, do you believe the Chinese government released this intentionally, on purpose? Did they do this?
Yes, of course, it's intentionally.
Now, remember, I don't know if she's telling the truth. I've seen lots of comments saying that, she's been proven wrong. Some saying she's a fraud. I don't know. Now, I think I stated she was the first to study the virus. She was the first to study the outbreak. I don't know if she actually was able to study the virus or not, but she was there right at the beginning. So again, she has some level of expertise that should be appreciated. And I don't know how much Fox News vetted her. I don't know how much research has been done into her. But the bottom line is, they're asking the question, where did the virus originate from? Here's someone was there at the beginning, who's escaped China, come to the United States of America. Let's hear what she has to say, right? Is that I think that's everyone should be willing to do that. That shouldn't be controversial. Now listen, the same thing is true if someone came forward and had information about President Trump and something that he has done that's putting us into danger. Listen, they should be heard as well. If someone came forward and had evidence to say, no, this originated in nature, and no, this virus is more deadly than people are letting on to be, and we need to shut everything down, they need to be heard as well. I'm not here arguing for or against what she's saying. I'm not here trying to argue one perspective about COVID or another. I'm not here trying to argue one perspective for Democrats and another for Republicans. I think that there should be freedom to get the information out. And any attempt to silence said information, that troubles me. So just to make sure you don't get caught up in what the COVID argument. That's not the point of this episode, all right? So she was one of the first to study the outbreak, right? She claims that it's there. Okay, fine. Now, should Tucker ask more difficult questions, more follow-up questions? You can watch, if you can find the interview, because the interview ultimately, well, he's getting ready to tell you what happened.
COVID-19 is not from nature, she said. It was created in a lab in Wuhan, China. The Chinese government intentionally unleashed it on the world. Those are her claims. Are they true? We have no way of verifying them. We do know that Dr. Li-Men Yang is not a quack. She's authored peer-reviewed papers on coronavirus transmission in both Nature magazine and The Lancet. Those are two of the most respected publications in all of science. Her paper on the origin of COVID-19, which she has published online, is not frivolous. In it, she points to specific evidence for the claims that she makes. She identifies so-called cut sites, which are frequently used in genomic engineering, that would allow scientists to swap in sequences from other viruses to create what she described last night as a Frankenstein bioweapon. She writes that she has firsthand knowledge that the Chinese military has a template virus with cut sites designed for that very purpose. Once again, we can't verify this, but it's clear that Dr. Li Mengyang is a serious person. She is making a very serious claim. So within a few hours of her interview last night, a video of the segment reached 1.3 million people on Facebook. And why wouldn't it? The coronavirus pandemic has touched the life of every American. And justifiably, people want to know where it came from. But Facebook still doesn't want you to know that. So Facebook suppressed the video, presumably on behalf of the Chinese government. Facebook executives made it harder for users to watch our segment. Those who found the video had to navigate a warning that the interview, quote, repeats information about COVID-19 that independent fact-checkers say is false. Instagram, which Facebook also owns, did the same thing. Twitter suspended Dr. Yang's account entirely. It did not explain why. Nor did the tech companies explain how they would know more about disease transmission than an MD, PhD virologist like Dr. Li Mengyang. Instead, Facebook and Instagram linked to 3 so-called fact checks that supposedly proved Yang was lying. But if you clicked on the provided links, you noticed something odd. The fact checks were all published months ago, many months, in January, February, and March. And they had nothing whatsoever to do with what Dr. Li Mengyang said on our show. They were written before, in fact, anyone knew who she was. One of the fact checks attacks a completely unrelated claim. The virus was patented and that a vaccine was prepared and ready to go. What does it have to do with the interview that we did last night? No one will tell us that. The truth is, and you know it if you've watched carefully, experts have been wrong frequently throughout this pandemic. At one point, they told us not to wear masks. Now they tell us we must, and so on. They have changed their prescriptions many times.
Now, here's the thing with the big tech companies. They have fact checkers who just decide, hey, your information's not true. They provide links to supposedly information that had nothing to do, did not even disprove what was said. So are the fact checkers now the infallible magisterium who determines if your information is true or false? By what criteria can a fact checker put a mark on your post, put a mark on your content, claiming that what you're saying is not true? If they're going to say that it's not true or that it's misleading or it contains false information, don't they have to provide absolute solid information that clearly proves that what you've said is not true? What they could have said is the information contained in this video is not verifiable or hasn't been verified. I think that would be acceptable, but they say, no, it contains false or misleading. And then they don't provide any information that had anything to do with what was said. And the information that they provided links to were outdated in a sense that everything about COVID-19 is constantly changing. And they provided things months ago, and they didn't even address any claims that were made in that episode or in that. I mean, come on. That can't be the way the tech companies are going to work. So they're there saying, hey, you can't, that information's not right. That information. And they completely banned her from Twitter. Gone. And here's the thing. They don't even really, they won't, in many cases, they won't respond to you. Like if they won't even respond to Tucker Carlson, then how are they going to respond to someone like me? They're not even going to give me the time of day. I'm no one. Tucker Carlson has an audience of millions. They could remove my content, ban me, block me, and I can't do anything about it. I could argue, well, this is not right. Who am I? They could care less. Just keep that in mind. There's a different perspective here that I'm going to offer. He's going to offer some more examples of people who get silenced, who have been banned in relation to things related to COVID. Again, I'm not here to get into whether what these people have said is true or false. What I'm here to say is there are individuals out there who seem to have some level of expertise in regards to medicine and health who are making claims opposite than what other people are saying. I'm not saying that they're always right. In some cases, I've seen supposed doctors saying things that you do a little bit of research and you're like, okay, I don't know what these doctors are saying. That's just not true. But that's irrelevant. The point is, should they be free to say things that may be controversial, say things that may be crazy? Do they have the freedom and right to say it, or who gets to determine that they don't? All right, let's continue.
Most of these are not bad people. Most of them are trying their best. But they're human beings, and therefore they're fallible. They make mistakes. The solution to this age-old problem, and we used to understand this intuitively, is more informed voices in the conversation. That's how you make wise decisions. That's how you get to the truth. Diversity of view. Facebook doesn't believe this. They believe in censorship. Censorship does not make us wiser. It does not make us better informed. If it did, we'd be speaking Russian right now. The Soviet Union would run the world. It would have worked. But instead, the Soviet Union is extinct. It collapsed under the weight of its own absurdities, absurdities abetted by censorship. And that's the most basic lesson of dictatorships, all of them. Anything built on lies falls apart over time. Unfortunately, dictators never see it that way. Dictators care about power. Anything that stands in the way of their power must be crushed. Watch Facebook leader Mark Zuckerberg back in April explain that any challenges to the party line on coronavirus will be censored immediately.
If someone's spreading something that puts people at imminent risk of physical harm, then we take that down. We don't allow that on Facebook. There are also other misinformation that may not lead to imminent risk of physical harm, but still isn't the type of stuff we want to be spreading through our system.
Misinformation can't be allowed to spread through our system, Zuckerberg declared. So what exactly, you may be wondering, constitutes misinformation? What's the definition of that? Well, in practice, misinformation, according to Facebook, is anything that suggests our health authorities and Democratic politicians are incompetent. Also anything that embarrasses big tech allies in the Communist government of China. Information like that is misinformation, and it must be censored. Not for your benefit, it doesn't help you at all, but for theirs, to solidify their power. So in July, Facebook and Twitter took down a video on the news site Breitbart of several practicing physicians, frontline doctors, pointing out that hydroxychloroquine could help coronavirus patients. Listen carefully to what the doctors say in this video.
This is a treatment regimen that's very simple, and it should be in the hands of the American people. The difficult aspect of this is that at the moment, because of politics, it's being blocked from doctors prescribing it, and it's being blocked from pharmacists releasing it. They've been empowered to overrule the doctor's opinion. I'm in favor of it being over the counter. Give it to the people.
That's true. Our authorities aren't pro-choice when it comes to hydroxychloroquine, and it's true that many practicing physicians have used it. But Facebook declared that video could not be allowed. You were not allowed to see it because those claims constituted dangerous misinformation.
Now, please note, there's a doctor saying, hey, use this medication, give it to the people, make it over counter. And Facebook's like, nope, you can't see that video. We're going to ban it because it contains harmful misinformation. Well, who determined that it was harmful misinformation? Someone who knew more than the doctors who were there giving that press conference? So they're giving a press conference, and then Facebook's like, you can't see that press conference. You can't see the press conference. We are going to tell you what you can see. I just want you to realize what is happening. I want you to see this type of thing is happening from all different sides. Hey, Netflix has a movie called Cuties. That's it. Get rid of Netflix. Shut it down. Burn it down. No more, because we don't like that movie. All right, okay. Whoa. And wait, J.K. Rowling. No, we got to cancel. Joe Rogan. Got to silence. So this shows up everywhere. And then big tech. Oh no. You can't. We can't show that. Nope, can't show that. Nope. We're going to put a fact check there. A fact check that doesn't even fact check what you actually said. We're going to claim that what you said was not true, but we're not going to offer any evidence to actually prove that what you said is not true. Well, then how can you say it's not true unless you prove that it's not true? Right? And that can, this is just getting absolutely crazy. So he's going to continue. He's got some more examples. Here we go.
Which, irony of ironies, was itself dangerous misinformation. In July, the same month that video was posted, researchers at Henry Ford Health System in Southeast Michigan found that early administration of hydroxychloroquine made hospitalized patients substantially less likely to die. These aren't politicians, they're not tech executives, they're physicians, and that's what they found in their clinical practice. But none of that mattered to the 25-year-old humanities major staffing Facebook's fact-checking division. They decided you absolutely could not see that video because it questioned the status quo. But in a way, in doing that, in censoring that information, Facebook was its most honest. The video was dangerous. It was dangerous to the same elites who view democracy as a threat to their monopoly on information. Give it to the people, the physician says in the video. Nothing could be more dangerous to Silicon Valley than democratizing access to the truth. something they believe they have a monopoly on. Alphabet, which owns the search engine Google, a monopoly if there ever was one, and the video sharing site YouTube, same thing, is even more protective of its complete stranglehold on information, which it has. In April, they took down a video from Dr. Dan Erickson. He said he was being pressured to indicate that patients were dying of coronavirus when in fact they died because of other causes. Many physicians have said that. He also cast doubt on the need for universal social distancing. Here's what he said specifically. Watch.
We aren't pressured to test for flu, but ER doctors now, my friends that I talk to say, it's interesting, when I'm writing up my death report, I'm being pressured to add COVID. Why is that? Why are we being pressured to add COVID? To maybe increase the numbers and make it look a little bit worse than it is? I think so.
This is a physician practicing medicine. Count the number of lectures you've received from Democratic politicians and tech executives. We need to let physicians decide. It's between a woman and her doctor. Oh, no, not in this case. You can't see that. And by the way, if they're willing to take that off the internet, if they're willing to censor that, prevent you from seeing it, what are they going to do with election results a month and a half from now? Think about that for a minute. YouTube said the video you just saw must be censored because it, quote, explicitly disputed the efficacy of local health authority recommended guidance. Notice they didn't even bother trying to claim that Dr. Erickson was saying something false. No. They just said he contradicted guidance from unnamed bureaucrats in the government. Talk about state media. This is what state media looks like. Demanding you must believe some unelected bureaucrat from the state. Taking his word over practicing physicians' word. More recently, YouTube censored a video from Dr. Scott Atlas. He's a member of the White House Coronavirus Task Force, joining us in a moment. Dr. Atlas argued that maybe we don't need universal social distancing measures. Some groups of Americans, Atlas said, are not in great danger from the coronavirus, especially young people. And that's obviously true. No serious scientist disputes the accuracy of that statement. But then Dr. Atlas did what you absolutely cannot do ever in this brave new world they've created. He pointed out that statistical models, those are the models that technocrats use to justify their existence, have been catastrophically wrong. Watch him say it.
The policymakers in general, they put in a lockdown. They didn't care at all. They did not calculate at all the costs of the harms of the lockdown, the consequences of the lockdown. They did a stop COVID-19 at all costs. And they used hypothetical projection models that were so egregiously wrong, far, far off, yet they keep citing those models. And so even now. And so the extension of the lockdown is the problem.
So this is why that should scare you. That wasn't allowed by our tech overlords. And yet no one disputes that what Dr. Atlas said in the clip you just saw is true. Look it up and verify it, assuming you're still allowed to. And because it is true, we will continue to say it and things like it.
Now there, he just gave you a number of examples of where things are just being banned, blocked. You can't see them. You're not allowed to see them. So this is a situation. And you take all the examples I've given, and I could go a lot. Steven Crowder does a podcast. He sometimes talks about controversial things. They were doing a watch along with Biden's, town hall meeting. And while Steven Crowder's on the air, they're doing a watch along where they're watching Biden, answer questions, and then they're offering their criticisms in real time and their analysis in real time. YouTube shut them down. Right there in the middle of it. They shut them down. So this kind of stuff is happening. I can't give you a percentage of how frequently it's happening. I can tell you this. It's happening obviously a lot. It's getting noticed by a lot of people, but I don't know where we're headed. And I just want you to realize that so let me make sure we understand this. We've got conservatives who want to silence, cancel, boycott certain things because they don't like it. We got liberals who want to silence, cancel, burn books if they don't like J.K. Rowling or Joe Rogan, whatever the case may be. So you got liberals, you got people on the more conservative side. You've got big tech involved in saying, we're going to label this false information. We're going to ban this. We're going to stop this. So it's happening and all different walks of life from all different ideological perspectives, which to me signifies a major turn in society at large, that the way to resolve things is by canceling it, silencing it, blocking it, banning it, boycotting it, which to me leads me to believe there's a fundamental change in people's perspective when it comes to the freedom of speech, which is dangerous to all of us. It's dangerous to all of us. And for me, obviously, the Theological Central podcast is about theology. This is dangerous for you and me right here as Christians, as pastors. Now, I want to make sure I've got to really try to take this apart. There's a lot more I'm going to get to, and we'll have to come back to this in a different broadcast. But I'm going to at least try to articulate this, and I want to make this very clear. Now, I believe there's a fundamental change happening within society about the freedom of speech, but we have to be very fair here, all right? A platform like Facebook, like YouTube, they are a privately owned company, and I think we have to defend their right to be able to determine what they host on their platform, right? It's their platform. It's not yours. It's not mine. If I want my content on their platform, they can issue some rules about what's allowed or not allowed. For me, give you an example, sermon audio. To be on sermon audio, you have to agree to a statement of faith. You have to agree to a certain statement of faith. You have to agree to it. All right? And if you don't agree to it, you can't be on their platform. It's their platform, privately owned. Christians don't have a problem with that. So if you, I'd have to go back and look at their statement of faith, but if you come from a certain doctrinal perspective that doesn't agree with that, you can't be on their site. Is that acceptable? Well, we would say, yeah, that's acceptable. Of course that's acceptable. Well, can't YouTube do the same thing? And could not YouTube, is it not possible for YouTube to say, hey guys, here's a new policy. You cannot preach against homosexuality. Now, you know how many churches now almost have put all of their eggs in one basket? Because it's some weird thing now that churches, they have to do all of their sermons on video. I don't know why they have to. Why? Why does it have to be in video? I don't get that. But okay, it's got to be video. It's got to be video. Why not just record the audio and just get the audio on the internet? But no, it's got to be, and they want it on YouTube. Now, I understand why you want it on YouTube. Because one, some want to monetize. So if you get enough views, I think you can get 4,000 hours of views and then you can monetize it. Some want to monetize their content so they can make money off of it. And I understand, I don't understand that from a church perspective, but okay. And because there are bazillions of people on YouTube every hour of every day watching bazillions of videos, and there's a greater chance of your content to be discovered. I can understand that. But if YouTube says, you know what? No preaching against homosexuality, no condemnation of Islam, no preaching against transgenderism. If they wanted to do it, they could. Are they not allowed to do that? You can say, well, that's persecution. You may think it's persecution, but it's their platform. Doesn't Facebook have the right to say, no, this is what is going to... People get mad. They deleted my post. That's not fair. It's not you didn't create Facebook. You don't own it. In fact, Facebook, you don't even pay to be on there. YouTube, you don't pay to get I don't pay a dime to get my content on YouTube. I don't pay anything. I mean, I don't really have any control. I mean, it just gets automatically uploaded. But so if they want to remove something, isn't it there? It may be irritating to me. It may be frustrating, but don't they have the right to do so? I'm on Spreaker. Don't they have the right? So I think we've got to be very careful here, right? On one side, we want the freedom to speak, and you do have the freedom to speak, right? I've got to make sure we draw two things. The freedom of speech is your freedom to speak. But your freedom of speech doesn't mean someone else has a responsibility and must be forced to post and share your freedom of speech. I may have the freedom to speak, but no one has any responsibility or is under any obligation to host my speech, to promote my speech, to share my speech. All right? So in other words, a tech company could, on ideological basis, decide that they don't want certain things on their site that holds to certain ideological perspectives. They don't want any pro-gun people. They don't want any. Anti-homosexuals, anti-transgenders. They don't want anyone preaching. They don't want anyone speaking against abortion. They could go ideologically driven and say you cannot have content here. They could. Now it gets into, are they a platform or are they a publisher? And there are some legal issues there. But I think at the same point, we want to be very careful. We don't want to, we want to defend the freedoms and the rights of companies as well, right? We want them to have some freedom and some rights. Sometimes Christians I have the right to preach, and you must post, publish, and host my preaching. And if you don't, you're persecuting me. Well, okay. Well, then if you're a Christian radio station, can the atheist say, I want you to host my atheistic website, my atheistic radio program, and I want you to air it? And the Christian program may say, no, we don't want to do that. We want to give, like Sermon Audio. Sermon Audio is not going to allow a pro-homosexual atheist Satanist to have a podcast on Sermon Audio. And we want Sermon Audio to have the right to host what they want. And we want YouTube and Facebook to have the right. So in the middle of the discussion about freedom of speech, we also have to realize freedom of speech doesn't mean that a company has an obligation to host your speech. So where does that leave everyone? Well, as the world moves further and further away from Christianity, I think more and more platforms are going to say no or be very limiting to what you can and cannot say to some level. I think for crying out loud, Joe Rogan, if there's people wanting him removed, now I don't think the CEO, I don't think Spotify will ever cave in because he's too valuable. He's too valuable. But if you're not valuable, look at how fast Alex Jones was removed from everything. He got banned from everything. Now you can still listen to his podcast, so he's still available. But a lot of the things he wanted, he couldn't have. His app was removed. There are a lot of things that created major problems for him. So here's the thing. We don't want to overblow this because we don't want to use hyperbole and over exaggerate this. But there is a silencing of a lot of things that clearly seem to come from more of a conservative Christian perspective. All right. There seems to be at least a concern that side is being silenced and that's being silenced. But at the same time, you had conservatives trying to end and silence the movie Cutie. So to be fair, there's a lot of silencing and banning and boycotting a lot of different things from a lot of different sides, and a lot of different people want it done. Here's what I think. As Christians, we're going to have to be wise here. All right. And look, the last thing I want is to be removed from I don't want to be removed from all the podcasting platforms because then people can't hear me, right? So then do Christians create our own platforms? Well, we can. We can. But here's the thing. Even if you create your own platforms, you're still going to need, for example, if you create your own app, the app stores then can remove your app. They did that to Alex Jones. All right, well, that's not good. That's not good. So what can you do? I think we're going to have to be creative and in creating ways where we can get our information out there. But they can ultimately limit it and cut it off. And that's sad. Now, hopefully, I don't see that happening immediately. I just think that here's what I think is going to happen. Some of the platforms, I think over time, are going to become more and more difficult for you to get certain messages out, right? I think Facebook, Twitter, YouTube is going to become more and more hostile. They have every right to do so because it's their platform. So Christians may have to create platforms that give Christians the ability to, to get their messages out there, and to be able to create a platform. Now, there is something called, I want you to look it up. I'll give you one Christian example of trying to combat this, all right? Now, I'm at 58 minutes, so I wanted to go into greater detail about this, but I received this email on September the 15th saying, you should join the KJV campaign. And I'm like, what? What's the KJV campaign? Now, I obviously use the King James. We use the King James in all of our preaching and teaching here at Victory Baptist Church. So I'm like, okay, maybe it's something that could help us. I'm like, what is this? But you need to look up this website, all right? KJVcampaign.org. KJV campaign, all run together. KJV campaign, CAMPAIGN.org. KJVcampaign.org. KJVcampaign.org. Now, they feel like that things are going to get worse before they get better. They're going to get much worse, right? And they believe more and more things are going to be shut down, and your content's going to find it more and more difficult to get out there. So they created a thing for those who use the King James Bible. Now, even they're limiting it because you got to agree with their beliefs, or you can't be on their platform. But what they're doing is they're creating a platform that's really interesting. All right. Basically, this is what happens. The KJV campaign is the KJV.FM radio network powered by a private viral radio technology. The technology was created specifically with preachers in mind. The result is a 24/7, 365 personal radio station. It includes user-friendly, easily shareable player, right? Not an app, but a player. So in other words, no app store can shut you down. No apps, no downloads, no software. That's interesting. Easy to use web-based audio file console. You have autonomous control over what broadcasts. Takes only a few minutes for you or your volunteers to update content. We handle the tech. You handle the message. So basically what you do, you've got to pay them a $97 contribution a month. Yeah, a monthly donation of $97, which is a little expensive. I wish I had the money because I would love to try this. And then I think there's a setup fee. There's a setup fee, I think, of $197. So in other words, it would cost us like basically $300 to try this. I would like to try it and see how it works. But basically what it does is everything's basically anonymous. They don't want the people who own this to know. They don't promote your station. Like you can't even, they won't even tell you who's using this. But basically you sign up, you place your audio where you want it, and then it's 24/7. It basically all of your content becomes a 24-hour a day, 7 day a week, 365 days a year radio station. And then whenever your preaching ends, if it's not the top of the hour, they fill up the time with hymns and they fill it up with that time. And then basically what they do is they give you like a little it's basically a mobile phone, or it's a code, right? It's kind of like a bar graph, I guess. And you give it to someone, and then they point their phone camera at it. And once they do, it opens up your station. So like this is really like nobody can find it searching for it. Nobody can locate it searching for it. It's like this is like secret stuff. So the only people who can even do so is you. Now you can post this little code like on your social media and on different things. People take their phone, with their camera, they point it at the little bar code, and the next thing you know, I think I said bar graph, barcode, and boom, it opens up your station, and then they can listen to it. Nobody can find it searching it. So it's like private, anonymous, secret, protected, and you don't have to rely on big tech. You don't have to rely on YouTube. You don't have to rely on Facebook. You don't have to rely on anybody. Nobody's there. Now you can use Facebook and other things to promote the station, but that's it. You're not putting any content on Facebook that they could be upset about. Now, is this a good solution? Well, the problem with this solution is the only people who can find you are the people you tell about. So like if we paid $300 for this, it'd be great for the people who listen to us. But it would be like, my thinking is I want my content out there. I want my content to be salt and light. I want to be out there in the midst of the arguing and the fighting and the debating, trying to present the gospel and trying to call people to the truth. So this would limit that, but it would at least allow your content to be safe, anonymous, and being broadcast 24/7. And then you have to rely on people to work hard to get that information so that everyone gets it on their mobile devices. It's an interesting concept. I'm not saying it's perfect, but it's interesting. It's almost like, hey, and they may be way before their time. They may, I don't know anybody else doing this. So I think it's very clever what they're trying to do. Again, you should go check it out for yourself. KJVcampaign.org, KJVcampaign.org, KJVcampaign.org. It would be great if you had 2 or 3 pastors who would join together and then create a station, and so that some of your content's on there, their content's on there, and it's just around the clock, 24/7. You still have your other platforms, but you have this going, and then all those churches share it with their people, and they share it with their people, and then you build an audience that 24/7, people are tuning in. Like for someone like me, I could be producing content all the time for it, right? You could have someone doing little news briefs. I could really vision how to build this, but you would need, I think, a group of people. You could share the cost, some like-minded churches, and then there it is. And so no matter what happens, all your other content, still put it on YouTube, put it everywhere. But if anything gets silenced, your content's there 24/7. I think it's a very clever idea. Now, you could say it's an alarmist. You could say it's an overreaction. I don't know. There's a major change happening in our society. Like right now, I'm not big enough to make a wave, right? I'm not big enough. But if I was to say the wrong thing, and someone got offended by it somewhere on the internet, there's a very good chance they could then have me, they could file a complaint. Next thing you know, I'm getting a mark, I'm getting banned, I'm getting shut down. That's the world in which we live in. And churches and Christians need to really think, I'm sorry, I was taking a drink of water. Christians need to really think of what's our long-term plan here. The KJV campaign, to me, it's a fascinating concept. It's a fascinating technology. I would love to try. I would love to use it. I would love to see what it looks like. I would love for all the listeners here to do so. But it would take us, $300 to get started, which is a lot of money. So, and then it would be $100 a month, which I don't have. If I was a bigger church, I would get the church together and say, we should try this, right? And I said, if multiple churches with one station, I think would be the idea. You share the cost and it wouldn't be as much, but nobody likes me. So I don't know, but I just know. And listen, this idea of silencing people, it's not new. And I'll end with this. I have been the victim of this. I have not been the victim of big tech. So far, big tech has left me alone, probably because I'm insignificant. I haven't had any major problems. Now, I did have a problem with on SoundCloud. I did an audio report about a song on my secular podcast, and it got banned, completely removed for a copyright violation. And I reached out to everyone involved going, there was no copyright violation. I did not play the song. I did not play any music. I simply spoke about the song, but they still banned, they completely removed it for a copyright violation, and nobody would respond to me. The record company wouldn't respond to me. Nobody would respond to me because I'm a nobody. So I have experience there. That's a big tech. That's not silencing me because they were offended. They just accused me of a copyright violation, and there was no way to defend myself. So I have experienced that. Which to me, to this day, that discouraged me so much. So they could just say, hey, you're banned for a copyright violation, and I don't even have to prove that I violated how could I violate anybody's copyright when it was just me talking about a song? I didn't play the song. I like, what? That's a copyright violation now to talk about a song. Hey, the song came out. Oh, you talked about it. Like, no, that's not a copyright violation under any interpretation of copyright law. But guess what? I had no recourse. It was just gone, and there was nothing I could do about it. That is how messed up it can get. But here, I'll end with this. This is what I experienced. Way back when I was early on being a pastor, obviously we've always tried to use technology any way that we can to get the message out to as many people as possible. So there was a local radio station that on Sunday mornings, they aired sermons from local pastors. I said, okay, we'll do it. So I go to the radio station. They're like, yeah, you want a slot? I think it was 9:30. I think it was 9:30. You get the 9:30 slot, 9:30 in the morning on Sunday mornings. And I'm like, okay, what do I got to do? You got to give us money. How much? And I can't remember how much it was, $50, $100, whatever it was. And I'm like, okay, we'll do it. $50, $100, here's the money. They didn't give me any rules. There were no rules about what I could and could not say. They didn't say anything, all right? They didn't say anything at all right? So I create a program where I read from all of the newspapers here, from the newspaper. There's only one newspaper in Abilene, the Abilene Reporter News. I read from the Abilene Reporter News all the ads put in the paper by churches for what they were going to do during the Super Bowl. And they were going to have Super Bowl watch parties. They were going to cancel their Sunday night service. They were going to do Super Bowl watch parties inside the church. Right? And so I bashed it to no end. I condemned it to the 18th level of hell, that's crazy. That's not what churches are supposed to do. Oh, they got very upset with me. However, that was the Super Bowl that Janet Jackson had a wardrobe malfunction and flashed the viewing audience. Yeah. So they kind of backed off on being upset, but they said, don't do that anymore. Don't name any churches. Don't name any churches. Okay, so Easter came around. And so I didn't name churches, but I bashed churches who were having Easter egg hunts and the Easter bunny showing up and turning the day that we're supposed to be celebrating the resurrection of Christ into a day celebrating a secular holiday of the Easter bunny and Easter eggs. And I said that had no place in Christianity. While I was on the air, I was kicked off. I received a phone call. I was fired. I was done. I mean, basically fired. I was paying them to be on the air, but I was done. They got rid of me, and again, no warning. They were done. You're finished. And they just started yelling at me. I mean, literally yelling at me. They were so furious with me that I would dare call out churches for their unscriptural, abomination and completely corrupting the day that we're supposed to celebrate the resurrection of the Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Because there wasn't a bunny that hopped out of the tomb. It was the resurrected Christ who came out of the tomb. That's what we're supposed to be about. But they turned the church they turned the whole celebration into an abomination. And they got mad at me. Why? Because I was offending Christians who now were not going to give money to the radio station. Now the radio station went off the air and they didn't survive, but they got rid of me. So I've seen this at work, where you silence anybody, any message that could, don't rock the boat. So I hate this kind of concept. Like, all that radio station had to do is at the beginning, the views and perspectives offered by the following program do not represent the views or the perspective of this radio station or its management. They do that for Rush Limbaugh. They do it for all kinds of shows. Hey, the views expressed, the views and opinions, the views and perspectives, offered in this program are possibly not the views and perspectives of this radio station. Then guess who? It's the sole responsibility of the one speaking. You can do that on a Christian radio program. But no. They wouldn't even think about doing that. They just got rid of me. So I'm the pastor who got kicked off Christian radio. I'm the pastor who was kicked off a Christian radio station for preaching Christianity and trying to defend and trying to argue for the purity of Christian worship and trying to argue for a biblical perspective on how the church should operate, and we shouldn't be bringing in the Easter bunny and Easter egg hunts. Whoa, but that's controversial. See, so I've seen this at work. Now, technically, that Christian radio station, they had every right to do that because they can air what they want. Now, of course, they should have given me some kind of rules. They were quick to take the money. They didn't give me any rules. They didn't tell me. They could have called for a meeting. Go, I think you're going to be a little controversial. So let's talk about how we can work this. Let's talk. No. They didn't call me in to have a normal meeting where you have reasonable people who sit down, just like the big tech. Ban videos and won't explain to anyone why it's banned. Why? Like, no explanation. You're just gone and we don't have to explain it to you. I hate when quote unquote authority figures act like that they're God and they don't need to offer an explanation. Why not work with people? But the church is going to have to realize we are becoming many churches are trying to do their sermons on Facebook Live. Well, what when Facebook decides they don't like your sermon? YouTube. What would it when they ban your videos? First, you need to get your messages on every platform available so that if it's removed on one, there's other places for people to find it. And I think something like the KJV campaign is an interesting It's an interesting idea, and the time may have come. Again, that's called the KJVcampaign.org. Please look at it. Give me your thoughts. KJV, I'm going to look at it one more time. KJV, man, here we go. KJVcampaign.org. My voice, I need to drink like about 10 bottles of water, but I hate trying to do it on the air. Whew, that feels better. But please look at it. Please look at it. KJVcampaign.org, KJVcampaign.org. My church can't afford it. I don't know if your church can afford it. If your church can afford it and your church does it, please let me know, because I'd love to see it at work. I would love to see this at work and see what it looks like and sounds like. But KJVcampaign.org, maybe this is a concept that's so far before its time it's going to fail miserably, because again, this is not made so that you can get your content out to everyone. This is the idea of getting your content somewhere that's safe, but only a limited amount of people can find it. It's very counterintuitive to my mind. My mind is, turn on this microphone, I want the whole world to hear. But it's an interesting concept. So, all right, I'll stop right there. We're well over an hour. So much more to talk about. There's so much I wanted to do today. And I didn't feel like I got any of it, but I have to stop because I need to go home and get some food. All right, so tomorrow morning, here's what's on tap. Here's the schedule. Tomorrow morning, I'm going to try to be here by 8 a.m., live broadcasting from 8 till probably close to 12:30 p.m. So from 8 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. tomorrow, live broadcasting. Then I'll go home and eat, try to be back at the church between 2 and 3, and then a live broadcasting till 7 p.m. So there's going to be multiple hours of live broadcasting tomorrow. I know I need to get back to the VBC Bible Institute in Genesis 7. I know there's so much I need to do, and I apologize for there's so much to deal with. And so just thank you for listening, and any feedback you can give me, great. If you have something you want me to cover tomorrow, this is the time to email me today, because tomorrow will be too late. And that's newsif@yahoo.com, newsif@yahoo.com. All right, thanks for listening. Everyone have a great day. God bless.